Hello everyone! As most of you must be aware, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has already been released. Unfortunately, I still haven't got the chance to play it, so I can't speak about it yet. But if you paid attention to the marketing campaign surrounding the game, you must have heard that the Final Fantasy VII sequel movie, subtitled Advent Children, was re-released in theaters. The same movie also had some of its scenes featured in Final Fantasy VII Remake, suggesting that the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy is going to have ties with the movie. Taking all of that into account, I decided to re-watch the movie and analyze some of the symbolism and meaning that some of the viewers might have not noticed. So here it is, the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children movie analysis. The movie starts with a Lion King type of scene, but instead of Mufasa showing Simba the extent of their kingdom, it is Red 13 showing the Midgar ruins to his successors. The movie then goes back to the events of 498 years before, as if Red 13 is telling his children about the events that had transpired in that same place long ago. After an enigmatic scene of a Shinra helicopter going inside the northern crater, we are shown a recapitulation sequence narrated by the character Marlene. She presents to the viewer some information that is very important to the world of Final Fantasy VII and to the plot of this movie, starting with the Lifestream.
The Lifestream. That's what we call the river of life that circles our planet, giving life to the world and everything in it.
The concept of the Lifestream is related to a real-world theory called the Gaia hypothesis, formulated by English scientist James Lovelock in the 1970s. In simple terms, the Gaia hypothesis points to the observation that the Earth itself has self-regulating mechanisms that make it very similar to a living organism. We can see how present this idea is in Final Fantasy VII by having characters saying things like sucking the blood of the planet and kill the planet.
Can't hear the planet crying out in pain!
But Final Fantasy VII gives an interesting twist to the Gaia hypothesis. Consider this. As a living being, when you die, your body decomposes and the components that make up your body return to the Earth and once again become part of the planet. If it's reasonable to say that about what happens to your body, why can't we say the same about what happens to your spirit? What if, when you die, your spirit leaves your flesh and then also returns to the planet and becomes part of the planet's own spirit? In Final Fantasy VII, that is real, and that great spirit of the planet is called the Lifestream. In order to help illustrate how the Lifestream functions, I created the simple representation that you see on screen now. The outer brown circle represents the surface of Gaia, which is the name of the planet where Final Fantasy VII takes place, while the inner green circle represents the Lifestream. When somebody dies in the world of Final Fantasy VII, that person's spirit goes into the Lifestream. Under some circumstances, the Lifestream can also get condensed into physical form and manifest in the world as a type of energy called Mako, which was being explored by the Shinra Electric Company. Another important information presented by Marlene is about the antagonist of the original game, a Shinra soldier called Sephiroth.
A soldier named Sephiroth, who was better than the rest. But when he found out about the terrible experiments that made him, he began to hate Shinra. And then, over time, he began to hate everything.
Even if you haven't played the original game, you need to know at least about Sephiroth and the Lifestream in order to understand what is going on in the movie. Marlene's narration then transitions into the current state of the world, 2 years after the events of the original game. A new city has been founded close to the Midgar ruins, a city appropriately named Edge, as it stands at the edge of the old metropolis, also symbolizing the edge of an old era. Its inhabitants live their daily lives apparently oblivious to the lives of those around them. Everyone is minding their own business, as children are literally laying ill on the streets. The sad state of affairs has been caused by a disease called Geostigma, which targets mostly young people, though some adults can also contract it, as we're going to be shown through the course of the movie. The name of the disease means scar of the earth or mark of the earth. The name alone already reveals that the disease is a mark left by the planet itself on some people, acting as a kind of curse. One of the children being afflicted by Geostigma is a character called Denzel, an orphan boy who was taken in by Tifa and Cloud. In the next scene, we see a grey wolf smelling the ground near Zack's grave, marked by the Buster's ward, just outside of Midgar. Whoever was standing there before just had their scent picked up by the wolf, and if you played the original game, you know that it could only have been Cloud, as he is the only character who visits the grave. Remember that wolf, because we're going to see it more times throughout the movie. Right after we get to see Cloud on his motorcycle, the scene cuts to somebody kicking down the Buster's ward, a sign of disrespect for Zack's grave. That's when we are introduced to the antagonists of the movie, a trio of silver-haired men called Yazoo, Laws, and Kadaj. By paying attention to the way that they interact with each other and their constant talk about finding their mother, we can notice that they behave like children despite having grown-up bodies, which connects to the theme and subtitle of the movie. After being attacked by the mysterious group, Cloud meets up with Rufus, the president of the now defunct Shinra Electric Company, who everyone thought had died at the end of the original game. Rufus's father, the previous president, was an evil man who only cared about his own greed, but his son was a little bit different from him. He was a charismatic leader who seemingly had ideals for a better future. He acted as a representative for a new generation that attempted to compensate for the sins of his predecessor. On one hand, he is different enough from his father so that he rejects him and is immediately recognized as a better leader, but on the other hand, he is similar enough to his father so that he is still worthy of suspicion. We can see in the way that Cloud deals with Rufus that such suspicion is still present in this scene.
The arrival of Sephiroth.
Sephiroth is dead.
Yes, but has his mind died? What if he somehow dissolved into the Lifestream, coursing through the planet undiffused?
According to Rufus's speculation, what caused the emergence of Geostigma was Sephiroth, or rather, it was his consciousness entering the Lifestream after his death. Not only that, he also believes that Kadaj's goal is to somehow bring Sephiroth back to life, which is why he needs Cloud's help to fight Kadaj. Cloud hesitates as he thinks about Rufus's proposal, as it seemed like a chance for Cloud to atone for his past mistakes. But thanks to Rina's slip-up, it becomes clear what Rufus is really after, and Cloud acts just like any of us would.
But
Come on, Cloud. Think about it. Together we could rebuild Shinra.
not interested.
Meanwhile, at the ruins of the old church at the Midgar slums, Tifa and Marlene find out that Cloud also has the Geostigma. Next, the movie cuts to Kadaj speaking to Rufus. There is an interesting irony in this scene. Rufus is the president of the company that almost killed the planet because of their greed. But damaging the planet was never Shinra's intention, it was merely a side effect of their selfish actions. Now, he is being confronted by Kadaj, a villain who actually wishes to damage the planet out of hatred, and he gets to see how terrifying such danger actually is. Kadaj's words are cryptic, as he doesn't state directly what it is that he's referring to, but the viewers who have played the original game would immediately recognize the meaning of some of his words, like reunion and mother cells, revealing that the mother that Kadaj is after is actually Genova, the alien life form whose cells were used to create Sephiroth. It is also revealed that Rufus is another victim of Geostigma, and that it was Kadaj's gang who was responsible for infecting the people with the disease. though their method is kept unclear. Finally, the movie reveals that Kadaj himself is a remnant of Sephiroth. Back at the old church, Tifa and Marlene are approached by Loss, who we now know is another remnant of Sephiroth, who is searching Cloud's trail in the hopes of finding a clue to Genova's whereabouts. As he draws closer to the church's flowers, he appears to be repelled by them, as if he is disgusted by them. Maybe it's just a simple way for the movie to show that the character is evil and therefore dislikes beautiful things. Or perhaps it's a way to represent the fact that he and his brothers hate the planet, and thus must also hate everything associated with nature. But the actual reason behind Law's behavior is kept somewhat unclear. After a beautiful fight scene, Tifa is defeated and falls unconscious, and Marlene gets abducted by Loss. At the city, Yasuo starts to gather children infected with the Geostigma by claiming to have a cure for them, and Denzel chooses to go along with the kids. We see that Denzel doesn't truly believe that a cure exists, but Kadaj's gang act like a false hope for desperate children who don't see any better option. Cloud arrives at the old church and runs over to an unconscious Tifa, only to then fall unconscious himself due to the Geostigma acting up. As Cloud and Tifa lie on the flower bed, the camera stands over them and reveals the Grey Wolf from the beginning of the movie watching over them, as if the wolf had followed Cloud's scent to that place, but only managed to arrive after Cloud was already unconscious. Cloud and Tifa would then wake up back at their home after being rescued by Reno and Rude. This particular scene reveals more about Cloud's personal struggle in the movie. He feels guilty about the mistakes he made in the past, especially those that might have caused the deaths of Zack and Aerith, and therefore he considers himself to be undeserving of being saved. For that reason, he ends up isolating himself from Tifa and his friends. Before he and Tifa can get to a conclusion to their discussion, Reno and Rude show up and reveal that the children had been taken to the Forgotten City. At the Forgotten City, we see the children gathered in front of the pond as Kadaj gives a speech. His message is that of blaming the planet for their suffering and then justifying the act of revenge. He is giving incentive for the children to raise their fist against God and believe that that's justifiable. He is trying to convince naive orphans who are lost and hopeless that they are poor victims of an unjust world and that everything will get better if they only do what he tells them to do. However, we, the viewers, already know that the ones truly responsible for the Geostigma are actually Kadaj's gang, so we know that they are actually offering a solution to a problem that they caused themselves. Then what follows is what I like to call an improper baptism. Kadaj tells the kids to follow his example and then enters the pond, contaminating it with darkness. He then takes the water and drinks it. This resembles very much a baptism scene, but the key aspects of the baptism are off. Just like a baptism, what Kadaj is doing symbolizes renewal, the start of a new life. But some things are done wrong on purpose here. First, there is no such thing as self-baptizing. One must be baptized by someone else. Baptizing yourself is an act of pride, which is considered to be the highest of sins. Second, in a baptism, you go inside the water, which is a symbol of chaos, to get washed by it. But in this scene, Kadaj brings the water inside of him. Instead of being washed by the chaos, he makes the chaos part of him, inverting what a baptism should be. The children then follow the example, and we see Denzel's eyes becoming the same as Kadaj's, signifying that now he's become the same as Kadaj and his brothers. The movie cuts to Cloud riding his motorcycle on the way to the Forgotten City, but then he gets a vision where he is talking to Aerith's spirit. Cloud says that he wants to be forgiven, as if he was to blame for her death. But then she asks,
By who?
Before Cloud can reply, the vision is interrupted by an attack from Kadaj. In front of the other kids, Kadaj starts referring to Cloud as a big brother to him and the children. Those who played the original game will notice that he's referring to the fact that Cloud was one of Sephiroth's clones, so he was the first to have a connection to Sephiroth before Kadaj and the victims of Geostigma. Cloud's phone drops into the pond during the fight, and after being defeated by the trio of antagonists, Cloud is rescued by Vincent, one of the playable characters in the original game. In the following scene, Vincent explains what the Geostigma actually is.
The stigma. It's a symptom of alien matter infesting the body. The body tries to eliminate it and overcompensates. Inside our bodies is a current, like the Lifestream. That current is what fights off any malevolent intruders.
What do you mean by intruder?
The Sephiroth gene. Genova's mimetic legacy. Call it what you want.
Summing this new information to what we already knew from Rufus and Kadaj, we now understand that the Geostigma is a reaction of the body, trying to reject Genova's genes that were spread by Kadaj. Everyone who has these genes has the potential of becoming a new Sephiroth, just like Cloud was in the original game, which explains him being treated like an older brother by Kadaj and his brothers. Marlene then shows up and helps Cloud reach the decision that he's gonna try to forgive himself. Next, we see Cloud's phone slowly descending to the bottom of the pond as we hear all the voice messages that Cloud missed. They are all messages from his friends, which shows that Cloud is not truly alone, but he's the only one who doesn't see that. In the end, we hear Aerith's voice, as if her spirit had left a message on his phone as well, saying that she doesn't blame him for his death, and the phone finally turns off when the message is over. We see the Grey Wolf once more standing in front of the pond, but this time the wolf suddenly vanishes, revealing that it was not an actual wolf, but a symbolic representation for something else. If you have not made the association yet, now is the time for me to say it. The wolf represents the spirit of Zack, Cloud's friend who died trying to protect him. When we saw the wolf at the earlier scenes, we were seeing Zack's spirit attempting to get to Cloud, but failing to reach out to him. Note that at this particular scene, the spirits of Aerith and Zack are gathered in the same place for the first time. Back at the city of Edge, Loz and Yazoo have gathered the children around the monument at the center of the city, and are attempting to destroy the monument, which was built in memory of the victims of the Midgar's destruction. Just like when Kadaj kicked the Buster's word at the beginning of the movie, we once again see that the trio of villains have complete disrespect towards the deceased. Meanwhile, Kadaj takes Rufus to a building under construction, and then summons the dragon Bahamut, as well as monsters who attack the inhabitants of the city. Tifa tries to rescue Denzel, but is attacked by the monsters. Thankfully, Cloud arrives just in time to save them. In the complete version of the movie, we even get an extra scene where rubble from a falling building are about to fall on top of Tifa, which triggers a flashback of Aerith's death. But this time, Cloud manages to save the girl's life, an act that serves as a kind of repentance for Cloud's past failure, and helps him get closer to fully forgiving himself. At the same time, more reinforcements arrive. All the protagonists from the original game gather to fight the monsters. The message here is pretty obvious. Unity is strength. But if we pay close attention, we can notice that they all have something in common. They all wear a red lace around their left arm. The red lace is associated with Aerith, the only member of the group that has passed away. So it serves as an indication that the characters all share the loss of their friend, and symbolizes that they all carry an aspect of Aerith with them. As Bahamut ascends to the sky, Cloud is then helped by each of his friends to reach the dragon, as each of the heroes stand at a different floor of the tallest building in the city and launch him upwards one at a time. This is, of course, physically absurd. But this iconic scene illustrates the idea that one is lifted by their real friends, including those who are no longer around, and which, in this case, helped Cloud at the most painful stage of the ascent. Thanks to this collaborative effort, the hero is able to reach the Dragon of Destruction and slay it with a flaming sword, saving everyone. He then comes back down from heaven, his body in the shape of a cross, and our focus is immediately shifted to another falling sequence that starts from the exact same height that Cloud landed, as if we are watching a continuation of the same descending momentum. Rufus, who was hiding Genova's head the whole time and even managed to damage it with his gun, is saved midway from the fall by his subordinates, while Kadaj goes all the way down to the lower ground in order to save his mother. After a very entertaining and extremely over-the-top motorcycle chase sequence, Kadaj runs away towards the Midgar ruins, so he escapes into the remains of a dead world. Before Cloud goes after him, he removes the sleeve covering his left arm, revealing two things. First, the Geostigma, which he was trying to hide in order to avoid making those around him worried, and also the red lace that represents his ties to the deceased Aerith and that all of his friends also wear. So by hiding his weakness from those who are close to him, Cloud was consequently also hiding that which was shared among him and his friends. He was hiding the fact that he also carried on an aspect of the same person whose death made him feel guilt. But now he decided not to hide those things anymore. In this very brief scene, we see Cloud overcoming another step towards his forgiveness of himself. Another detail worth noticing is that Cloud also carries the image of a wolf on his left side. Just like the red lace which represents Aerith, the image of the wolf represents Zack, like explained before. So it makes perfect sense that Cloud is the only one who wears the image of the wolf, since he is the only character who had a connection with Zack. The memories of both Aerith and Zack are the source of strength that Cloud needs to overcome his trial. The red lace and the wolf are signaling to us that he is also carrying aspects of those dead friends within him. Then Kadaj enters the ruins of the old church, and we watch something that looks like a boy despairing at the pain of losing his mother. The only difference being that Kadaj never really had a mother, so his pain actually comes from his reluctance to accept that he won't be able to get that which he wants the most, something that could fill the hole left by the mother he never had. After Cloud enters the scene, Kadaj launches a destructive spell on the ground as he attempts to kill Cloud, but the consequence is something completely unexpected, as the attack reveals a spring of water hiding below the church ground. The water then raises in the air as if it's alive and starts raining down on the two characters. The Geostigma on Cloud's arm is washed away by the holy water, revealing itself to be the cure that the people have been so desperately trying to find. But Kadaj tries to avoid the water, as if it's repelling him. That water is sprung from the exact same place that made Laws feel disgust earlier in the movie, so Kadaj's reaction even gives us greater insight about the reason behind Laws' previous behavior. They were reacting to something that could actually cause harm to them. We then see the shot of one last drop of water falling at the newly formed pond as we hear Aerith's voice. This is a way to show that the cure for the Geostigma that was caused by Sephiroth's spirit corrupting the Lifestream is not merely the H2O molecules of water from the spring, but actually Aerith's spirit, who had also been integrated into the Lifestream just like Sephiroth's spirit had, and then interacted with the physical world by using the water as a catalyst. Cloud, who's now no longer affected by the Geostigma, reaches Kadaj once more for their final showdown. Kadaj accuses Cloud of once being a puppet, just like he is. He's referencing that Cloud was one of Sephiroth's clones during the events of the original game, but not only that, He's also exposing the similarity between the two opposing characters on screen. Cloud was once manipulated by Sephiroth and Genova's will, but he managed to wake up, take control of his own actions, and defeat them. Now Kadaj, who represents a younger generation below Cloud, finds himself in the very situation that Cloud once was. But the difference is that Kadaj is voluntarily willing to give up his will for Sephiroth and Genova. Because of this relationship, it is Cloud's personal responsibility to stop Kadaj, by either making him open his eyes to his wrong ways, or by finishing him off in case it's too late for redemption. Although it's commented upon in a vague manner, this is also noticed by the other heroes as they observe the fight from afar. Cloud has the upper hand in the fight, so in a desperate attempt to invert this chaos, Kadaj defiles what was left of the body of his own mother and brings Genova cells into his body. He devours the devouring mother herself, and the result is the revival of Sephiroth. Although the appearance of the body also changed, what's most important about this scene is that Sephiroth's consciousness was brought back from the dead by possessing Kadaj's body, the body of someone who willingly offered it up for the fallen angel. The sky goes dark, and Cloud has to fight against his old role model, his childhood hero who betrayed all he considered to be good, and the incarnation of what he would have become if he had given up to his evil side. The fight fittingly takes place at the fallen Tower of Babel, that is the old Shinra headquarters building, the place where all the evils of the old world sprung from, moving from the base of the building to the top of it in a subtle but consistent ascent movement. By carrying within his conscience all that is good, Cloud finds the motivation and the strength to then surpass Sephiroth and once more defeats the one-winged angel. But before vanishing, Sephiroth lives his iconic but ominous last words.
I will never be a memory.
What's so unsettling about Sephiroth's statement is that he is actually speaking the truth. He is not making a threat, but giving a warning. Sephiroth's spirit will keep on existing, diluted within the Lifestream, which means that the danger of new people trying to become a new Sephiroth, just like Kadaj did, will be forever present, until the end of time. But we know that's no reason to despair, as Rufus had already explained the solution to the problem earlier in the movie.
Go on, bring your Genovas and your Sephiroths. Cause trouble till your heart's content. We'll do as life mandates. We promise. We won't let you win, we'll stop you.
Besides that, Sephiroth may always be present in the Lifestream, acting as a disease to the planet, but so is Aerith, acting as a cure, which even reinforces the importance of her sacrifice in the original game. And speaking of cure, Kadaj's body then comes back to normal, but he is now weakened and has lost his will to fight. Throughout the entirety of the movie, Kadaj's purpose has been to find Genova and fill the gap of the mother figure that he longed for so much. The light from the heavens starts to shine through the darkness and the water of life comes down from above, cleansing Kadaj, who finally lets go of his obsession. Like a divine irony, it's in that moment of giving up on his desire that the desire is fulfilled. Kadaj hears the voice of Aerith, and by recognizing her as the benevolent mother, he is freed from his corrupted flesh and ascends to heaven. The water of life, infused with Aerith's essence, also rains down on the people in the city, curing the innocent orphans, and even those burned by the heaviest of guilts. So everyone rejoices at the miracle. The conflicts seem to be over, as Cloud lets himself be washed by the heavenly rain, but not everyone is satisfied with such a conclusion, as two overgrown children still refuse to let go of their childish ways, trying to take their big brother along with them to make them company in death.
Together, we'll play
An explosion happens and Cloud dies. Thankfully enough, he already has friends over on the other side to tell him that it is not his time yet, and they bring him back to the world of the living. We see the Grey Wolf one last time, and the cycle of death and resurrection is completed, as Cloud wakes up floating on the pond at the old church. In the complete version of the movie, we also get a scene of the people of the city all going towards the church. They have finally found something of value that was left behind in the ruins of the old world, a place for communion, the solution to the sad state of obliviousness towards others that was presented at the beginning of the movie, the problem that characterized the new world built at the edge of the old one. Guided by the spirit of the benevolent mother, the children are able to find the forgotten value of the old world. The only problem left to solve is the problem of Kadaj's improper baptism. The solution is, of course, to perform a proper baptism, where one must be washed by the purifying water. Cloud then becomes just like John the Baptist, and very explicitly baptizes Denzel, who represents the future generation. Cloud then looks at the church's door and sees his two deceased friends, Zack and Aerith, whose spirits briefly came back from the dead for him. He then smiles and states the lesson that is the culmination of his entire journey throughout the movie.
I know. I'm not alone. Not anymore.